All right, welcome back to the deep dive,
Yes, welcome back.
where we, as always, take your requests and do a deep dive into them.
That's right.
And today we're tackling a question that we got a lot from a lot of listeners,
Yeah.
which is like, how do you get started with crypto?
A big one, yeah?
Yeah, and specifically like how to make money with crypto.
Yeah.
So
How to actually, take those first steps
exactly,
and start seeing some returns.
And we found this really interesting source to kind of help us answer that question.
Yeah.
So we found this YouTuber, Jordan Welch.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some of his stuff.
Yeah, and he has this video called I Asked Bitcoin Billionaires for Crypto Advice.
Okay.
So he went to this big Bitcoin conference.
Oh, cool.
And he got to interview a bunch of really big names in the crypto space.
So we're getting like advice straight from the top.
Exactly.
The people who are really in the know.
So what we're going to do today is kind of go through his video and pull out some of the best pieces of advice. Okay.
For people like us who are looking to get started with crypto.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, me too.
So who's the first big name that he talks to?
Well, the first person he interviews is Kevin O'Leary.
Oh, okay. Mr. Wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah, from Shark Tank.
You know him from Shark Tank, yeah.
Yeah, he's made some big moves in the crypto space too, right?
He has, yeah. He's been pretty vocal about his crypto investments.
Okay, so what kind of advice does he have for beginners?
Well, his first piece of advice is to set up a centralized crypto wallet
Okay.
and also set up a decentralized crypto wallet.
Okay, so both.
Both, yeah.
Add both.
Well, he says it's really important to understand the difference between the two.
Okay, that makes sense.
So a centralized wallet is typically like what you would get from an exchange
Right.
like Coinbase or Binance, right?
Okay.
And it's easy to use, it's convenient,
Yeah, it's user friendly.
but the downside is that you don't actually control your private keys, right? The exchange holds them,
Yeah.
which can be a bit of a risk.
It can be, yeah, because if the exchange gets hacked or goes bankrupt,
Uh-oh.
you could lose your crypto.
Okay, so what about decentralized wallets then?
So decentralized wallets, you have complete control over your private keys.
Okay, so more secure in that sense.
More secure.
Probably a bit more complicated to use.
It can be. Yeah, it can be a little more technical.
Right.
But you have that peace of mind knowing that you're the only one who has access to your crypto.
Gotcha. So O'Leary's saying you should set up both types of wallets so you can really understand the pros and cons of each.
Yeah, and kind of get a feel for how they work.
Okay, so that's a good first step.
Yeah.
What else does he recommend?
So this might sound a little crazy,
Okay.
but he actually suggests investing about $200.
$200.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the mindset that you might lose it all.
Really?
Yeah.
Like just accept that you're going to lose it?
Well, he says it's like
Seems risky.
paying for an education.
Oh,
You know, okay.
I see. So it's more about the learning experience
Exactly.
than actually making a profit.
Yeah, he says by going through the process of buying crypto,
Right.
transferring it between wallets,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even experiencing a small security scare.
Like a little test run.
Yeah, you'll learn a lot more than you would just by reading about it.
Okay, so it's like a hands-on learning approach,
Exactly.
but with a relatively small amount of money.
Right, so you're not risking your life savings.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So $200, be prepared to lose it, but learn a lot in the process.
Exactly.
Okay, what else? What else did Mr. Wonderful have to say?
Okay, so once you've kind of got your wallet set up and you're ready to start investing,
Yeah.
he recommends starting with a small basket of about 5 different cryptocurrencies.
5, okay.
Yeah.
And why 5 specifically?
Well, he says it's good to diversify even at this early stage.
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket,
Exactly.
even if it's just a small amount.
Yeah, and it gives you a chance to kind of see how different blockchains work.
Okay, so you get a broader view of the market.
Yeah, and kind of get a feel for the different technologies.
So did he give any specific examples of cryptocurrencies to start with?
He did, yeah. He specifically mentioned Ethereum,
Okay, one of the big ones.
Bitcoin, of course,
Yeah.
Solana, and
Okay,
Polygon.
interesting. So a mix of established players and some newer projects
Exactly.
to see kind of the different facets of the market.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then he really emphasized the importance of continuing to learn.
Okay,
So he's a big fan of online resources,
likewise.
like YouTube, for example.
Yeah.
So he says there's a ton of great information out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of content on YouTube,
Yeah, you can find videos on pretty much any topic.
but you have to be careful, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, not all of it's good information.
So how do you know what to trust?
Well, I think it's important to look at the source.
Yeah, the credibility of the source.
Yeah. So, if it's someone who's been in the space for a long time and has a good reputation,
Right.
then you can probably trust their information.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So O'Leary seems to be pretty big on education, huh?
He is, yeah.
And not just like formal education, but really immersing yourself in the space.
Exactly, yeah. He says it took him about 3 years.
3 years.
To really feel comfortable with crypto.
Okay, so it's a journey.
It is, yeah.
It's not something you learn overnight.
No. And he's also got a lot of his own money invested now.
Okay.
But he makes sure to point out that the market is very volatile.
Right.
So even he, experiences the ups and downs.
Of course, yeah, it's a risky market.
Yeah.
So I guess his overall message is like, do your research, be prepared to lose some money at the beginning.
Right.
But see it as an investment in your education.
Exactly.
Okay, that's some solid advice from Kevin O'Leary.
Yeah, I think so.
So who else did Jordan Welch talk to?
So the next person he interviews is Brian Jung.
Brian Jung, okay.
Yeah, he's another successful crypto investor.
Okay.
Who's got a pretty big YouTube channel.
Okay, so another voice from the YouTube crypto world.
Exactly.
Okay, what did Brian Jung have to say?
Well, he kind of focused on the psychological side of getting started with crypto.
Okay, the mindset.
Yeah, and his main message was don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Okay, easier said than done.
Yeah, I know, right?
Especially when you're dealing with your own money.
Yeah, but he says mistakes are inevitable.
Right, everyone makes them.
Yeah.
Especially when they're learning something new.
Exactly.
Well, it's more about how you handle those mistakes.
Exactly, yeah. He says the important thing is to learn from them.
Okay, so not just brush them under the rug.
No, yeah, actually take the time to figure out what went wrong.
Right, analyze them.
Yeah, and why it went wrong.
Okay, so you can avoid making the same mistake again. Gotcha.
So he's all about continuous learning and adaptation.
Right, constantly improving your strategy.
Exactly.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, and he also acknowledged that the crypto world can be really overwhelming.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn.
There is, yeah, all these different terms and concepts.
Right, stable coins, altcoins, NFTs, DeFi.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Can be really intimidating.
Yeah.
Especially for beginners.
Yeah, so he just encourages people to not feel pressured to understand everything all at once.
Okay, take it one step at a time.
Exactly.
Focus on the basics first.
Yeah, and then gradually expand your knowledge.
Right, build a strong foundation.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good advice.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to make mistakes. Learn from them, and don't try to learn everything all at once.
Gotcha. Those are some good takeaways from Brian Jung.
Yeah, I think so.
So who's the last expert on the list?
So the last person Jordan Welch interviews is Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's a big name in the crypto world.
Huge.
Yeah. I know he's like super bullish on Bitcoin.
Yeah. So his company, MicroStrategy, holds a ton of Bitcoin.
Like a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah. At the time of this video, they had something like 125,000 Bitcoin.
Wow. That's a serious investment.
It is. Yeah. And it was worth something like $5.2 billion.
Okay, so this guy's definitely not messing around.
No, he's not.
So what does Michael Saylor have to say about the future of crypto?
Well, he's got some pretty interesting predictions.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So first of all, he thinks that crypto technology is going to become more and more integrated into our everyday lives.
Okay, like how?
Well, he sees it being built into mobile apps.
Okay, so like maybe your banking app will have a crypto wallet built in.
Exactly.
Or your social media app.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, it would make it a lot easier for people to use crypto.
Right, lower the barrier to entry.
Exactly.
Right.
What else? He also thinks there's going to be a huge increase in the number of digital wallets.
Okay, so more people holding crypto.
Yeah, and specifically holding Bitcoin and stablecoins.
Stablecoins. Okay.
Yeah, so stablecoins are basically cryptocurrencies that are pegged to the value of a fiat currency.
Like the US dollar.
Exactly.
Okay, so they're less volatile than Bitcoin.
Right, so they could be a good option for people who are new to crypto.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, and then he also talked about the Lightning Network.
Oh, the Lightning Network.
Yeah, so that's basically a layer on top of the Bitcoin network that allows for faster and cheaper transactions.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really efficient.
It is, yeah, and he thinks it has the potential to revolutionize cross-border payments.
Okay, so it could be a game changer for international money transfers.
Exactly.
Which are notoriously slow and expensive right now.
Yeah, so he's talking about addressing the needs of billions of people who are either unbanked or underbanked.
Right, so people who don't have access to traditional financial services.
Exactly.
Okay, so he sees crypto as a way to empower those people.
He does, yeah. And he paints this picture of a future where money moves quickly, easily, and ubiquitously thanks to crypto.
It's a pretty bold vision.
It is, yeah. And it's definitely something to think about.
So that's his big picture outlook on the future of crypto.
Yeah.
But what about specific advice for beginners?
So for beginners, especially those with smaller budgets,
Yeah.
his main advice is to prioritize education.
Education.
Okay, above all else.
So like learn before you invest.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah, he says you should never invest in something you don't understand.
Right. That's a good rule of thumb for any investment.
It is, yeah.
So did he recommend any specific resources for learning about crypto?
He did, yeah. He mentioned hope.com.
Hope.com.
Which is a website with a bunch of educational resources.
Okay.
And he also recommended his own website, Saylor.org.
Saylor.org, okay.
Which has a 12-hour class on Bitcoin.
Wow. 12 hours. That's a deep dive.
It is, yeah, but he says it's worth it.
If you're serious about learning about Bitcoin, okay, what else?
He also recommends reading books like The Bitcoin Standard.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, and watching educational videos.
So really immerse yourself in the information.
Yeah, he says knowledge is power in the crypto world.
Right. The more you know, the better equipped you are to make informed decisions.
Exactly.
And avoid making costly mistakes.
Yeah, he specifically warned against investing based on rumors or hype.
Right. Don't just follow the crowd.
Yeah, or FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah, FOMO can be dangerous.
It can be, yeah.
Especially in a market like crypto.
Yeah, so he says you should always make your decisions based on your own understanding of the technology.
Okay, so do your own research. Don't just blindly follow what other people are saying.
Exactly.
A solid advice.
Yeah.
So we've heard from Kevin O'Leary, Brian Jung, and Michael Saylor.
Yeah.
3 very successful figures in the crypto world.
Yeah.
And they all have slightly different perspectives.
They do.
But there's some common threads running through their advice. So if we were to distill it down to a few key takeaways,
Yeah.
what would you say those are?
Well, I think the biggest one is the importance of education.
Yeah, they all stress that.
He did, yeah.
Learn, learn, learn.
Learn before you invest.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the second one would be to start small.
Right. Don't go all in right away.
Yeah. Experiment with a small amount of money.
Like O'Leary's $200 suggestion.
Exactly, yeah. And be prepared to lose it.
Right. See it as an investment in your education.
Exactly.
And then the third takeaway would be to be patient.
Yeah.
This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme.
No, it's a long game.
It takes time to learn and understand the market.
Exact.
And to make informed decisions.
Yeah, and you know there are going to be ups and downs.
Right. It's a volatile market.
So you need to be prepared for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think another important takeaway is that there's no one right way to get started with crypto.
Right. Everyone's journey is different.
Exactly.
You have to find what works best for you.
Yeah, and you have to be comfortable with the level of risk you're taking.
Absolutely.
So, you know, if you're someone who's really risk averse,
Yeah.
then maybe crypto isn't the right investment for you.
Right. Or maybe you start with a very small amount and see how you feel.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are some great takeaways.
Yeah, I think so.
So for our listeners out there who are thinking about getting started with crypto, what would be your final piece of advice?
I would say just remember that knowledge is power.
Okay.
The more you know about crypto, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions.
Right. And to avoid making costly mistakes.
Exactly.
So do your research, be patient, and start small.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Right. There are all lots of resources available.
Yeah, like the ones that Michael Saylor mentioned.
And like this podcast.
Exactly.
We're here to help.
Yeah, so don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.
Absolutely.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your crypto journey.
Yeah, there's so much to learn and explore.
Exactly, so stay curious and keep learning.
Great advice.
And on that note, thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.